I haven't made a barn update video in a while, but I have been making a lot of progress on the barn. In fact, in the last week, I worked on it pretty much all last weekend, 2 really full days, getting quite a bit done. There's just been a lot of miscellaneous odds and ends. I put a plastic sheet up down the center drive bay to create a ceiling to keep bird and bat poop from falling down into the area that I'm working. I noticed that one of the rafters was cracked over the top of one of the posts, so I ended up splicing that with a 2x8 on each side of the rafter, screwed through with structural screws. And on top of that stuff, I've been working on the sills over the last several weeks, including in the back corner, but also one whole side. And that's really what happened last weekend, was working on the sills down one side of the barn. So we'll take a look at that a little bit more closely. We'll start at the back and then make our way up to the front. So back here on this corner, the boards were removed up to where you see those shingles. All of this ultimately needs to be redone, but this was all stripped out because this sill piece here was replaced. The scarf joint is right over there. To get this in, I actually got that piece in myself, and then later, after it was in, this post and the door post got jacked up in order to reconstruct the foundation here in this corner and get some pressure treated wood underneath the sill by the scarf joint over there so that this is all supported. The only piece of sill down this whole side of the barn that's original is this one here. I still need to fill some epoxy in the end there where it was exposed and has gotten a little bit soft and punky, but otherwise this piece was solid enough to keep. So I did keep it. You can see that the metal mending plates there are actually tying the post down to the sill, and I've done that on all of the posts now, but I did it here specifically so that when the post was jacked up, the sill and everything would go with it. Same with that one there. Let's take a look at this on the inside. So on the inside, here's the scarf joint that I cut, basically a taper. Believe it or not, this is salvage. This is an old piece of hand-hewn timber that's about 8.5 by 8.5, but I just scarfed it in here just next to this post. So as we look over into this bay, we have 2 brand new 6x6 joists over there, and then again, this original sill timber has been supported. All of this was jacked up, and this whole bay is now actually level. This was not level before. That outside edge was much lower than the center, which is kind of behind where I'm standing. This is the center drive bay here. You can see there were 3 larger joist timbers that span this. These are all 3 feet apart. So they're actually spaced nicely for a hay wagon and the tires or the axles from a hay wagon coming in. Unfortunately, that spacing is not great for the compact tractor because the width on the compact tractor is 5 feet, so the center line to center line of the tires is just a little bit over 4 feet, which means if I put one tire on that timber, the other one is kind of floating over here between any timber on the floor. So what I did is I just took some 2x8s, these are rough sawn 2x8s, got some rough sawn joist hangers, and I've just put them in between to help stiffen the floor when the new planking goes down. Originally here, there were 2 layers, a layer of 1-inch board and then a layer of 2-inch planks on top of that. Let me see if I can get you a look at it. So moving up in the barn, you can see this. Here's your layer of 2-inch plank, and then underneath that there's 1-inch board. So there's actually a 3-inch thick floor there. Whereas when I replace the floor, it's just going to be 1 layer of 2-inch plank that are finished tongue and groove, so they will all slot together, which will make it nice and strong, but the thickness will actually only be 1.5 inches in actual thickness compared to the 3 inches that we have here. So that's a big reason why I wanted to add those intermediate joists, just because 1.5 inch flooring might flex a little more than I want under the tractor driving through here. Coming back out here to the front corner, here is the beginning now of the new sill, which runs all the way back to there where I was showing before. This is new 8x8 material. So this piece here, the first section is a 20-footer. It's got 2 posts sitting on it. Unfortunately, in raising this post, this corner needed to go up really another inch higher than it did so that I could get more PT under there. That's just 5/4 decking as opposed to 1.5 or the 2.5 like I have in some places. This post actually split here. There's a weak spot here with the joinery coming in on two sides, and jacking from down here, you're inevitably inducing a moment on there because your jack is offset over here. You're picking up all that load and it just couldn't take it there. So this is spliced with a 2x8 now on both sides, and I do still need to fix that. The stonework I did have to redo under each post. The amount of PT is different depending on the post location. I mentioned at the corner up at the front it's only 5/4. Here it's 1.5 inches, just based on the space that I had to work with. As we move back though, here's one scarf joint. That's actually a 2.5 inch thick piece there, as well as there underneath that post. This was tricky given the way the existing stones were. That's why that's sticking out so far, but I wanted to span across as much as I could. Coming down to the next scarf and post, there's 5/4 decking underneath there on that stone. Then we have a series of stones here that are straddled by a 2.5 inch thick by 7.5 inch wide piece of pressure treated wood. These thick pieces of PT actually were trash. My neighbor does building work, and these came from Wentworth Marina being thrown out, and he basically got the permission to just take them and keep them. And so that's what all of this pressure treated is. Even going down to that corner there is built up from this pressure treated material, which is really 3x8 that was from the dock at the Wentworth Marina here in New Hampshire. So that stuff has been pretty great, and it's a high grade of treatment as well, so I'm hoping it really holds up. Again, all of this is picked up from where it was sitting, and the timbers that came out of here were quite rotten, especially toward the outside. The inside was okay, but the outside was really rotten, had moss and other growth in it, and going up to that front corner, it was so bad that there was really only half of the timber left. It was maybe 4 inches thick and pretty rotten at that. So that just all needed to go, and now it's brand new, solid 8x8 running the whole way. So in here, this was the jacking mechanism after that split right there around that joint to pick this up and get the post back in line and get it spliced. There isn't really load on that jack right now, but it's still in place until I really reinforce this. You can't tell how much that corner came up until you start looking. So this was pretty close to final level. You can see it's only about 1 inch low, but if we go further down here, you can see about 4 inches is what that had to come up. So this inner sill is still resting at the original level here. Same with the next one, and then once we get beyond that, that's where it already was brought up with that back corner. So what I ended up doing is, as this was jacked up, I cut off the tenons. I actually jacked from in here, sitting on top of that member. So cut off the tenons connecting to the original sill, and then as it came up, I also cut off the tenon at the bottom of the post, at least what was left of them, given the old rotten sill. So what I need to do now is actually just pick these up, jack up underneath them, support them near the end, support them in the middle. Down there, all of these timbers actually are supported in the middle, as well as the ones in the center drive. They're supported in the middle. So that's what I need to do here with these, bring them back up to level, and I'm just going to use a metal angle bracket, like a mending plate, and tie the inner sill members here to the outer sill that is brand new. Once that's all up and raised, I still need to fill in with the stonework, patching up the stonework along this side. This barn as a timber frame is amazingly flexible, but also amazingly strong. So when that corner came up 4-ish inches, it got to the point where this next post actually lifted off, and that one just about lifted off too, as everything kind of came back up into where it wanted to be. The other thing is, even though this window is broken out, no more of it broke out. There's still 4 panes of glass up there that were not impacted at all by picking this up. And this sliding door actually operates a whole heck of a lot better now that that corner is back up where it should be. Still a lot of work to do here. That is totally gone, that sill there, and all the joisting needs to be redone. Same thing across this front entry. But that's probably a project for the spring. I'm just concentrating on getting the back situated and getting the flooring coming up this fall and winter. So that's where the barn is at now. I'm gonna start doing a little bit of work trying to get some of these interior sills back up to the correct level that they need to be at and get them tied in so that we're ready for flooring beyond just the last bent or last section behind me. Right now, that's the only space that's actually ready for new floor. I'd like to get the interior ready for new floor coming forward down the side. So that's what I'm going to work on today for a little bit, and I'll probably capture that and close this video with some footage of that activity.